So, looking at your reteach. Oh, reminder. Wednesday and Thursday, if you haven't already been told that, Wednesday and Thursday you have early release, I believe 1:15 style schedule. So that means like no lunch till after 1:15. So if you can't live that long, bring snacks, and hopefully you'll have some teacher that will let you eat at some point. Okay, so the first page, looking at number 1 and number 2. This is the very first thing that we did on the notes where we had the tracing paper and you're doing translation. Okay, so both of these should be able to fit on here. Okay, so you're tracing, remember you trace the original line, the shape. These do not have letters on them, so you're going to label them whatever letters you want to, because I want to know which one is your pre-image and which one is your image. Okay, so remember, after you trace it, you just choose how far you want to move it. You just keep the line on top of itself. This is just like the notes. I think you guys remember how to do this one. And then trace the shape again, and then just label it. How do I know the difference between the pre-image and the image? What was the prime mark? So whatever letters you put here, then on your new shape, then you're going to put the prime mark, which looks like an apostrophe. So remember that from... you can look at your tracing paper that you have on your notes because you still have your notes. Okay, so both of those should be able to fit on this paper. Okay, so you can come back to that so I know that you're listening. Okay, so this next part on the back of this paper, these were way too small for you to rotate because it's really hard to get your compass and your point that close together to rotate points. So what I did, so make sure you're listening, you are not doing it on this paper. Okay, so I photocopied them. Ignore, because I blew up all the pages and I didn't need to blow this one up. Okay, so skip over 1 and 2 on that one because that's the one that you traced on the first page. And we'd rather trace smaller and have it on a smaller piece of paper than to trace a big one. So ignore that. Okay, so 1 and 2, you're not doing it on that paper because you already did it on the first page. This is where you're going to do it because this is a lot easier to use your compass to do the rotations when they're bigger shapes. Okay, so this is what we just went over, the last problem that we just did. Okay, and this is what I was talking about. These aren't labeled. Okay, so if you want to, so that when you go to connect them, you know what letters you're connecting and where those spots are at. Okay, so on number 3 and number 4, you're going to rotate those 45 degrees. Okay, so make sure you write it on there in case you... So 3 and 4, you're going to rotate them 45 degrees. Okay, so center of rotation. Okay, that's your center of rotation. So remember, you just draw a line from whatever one you're moving to the center of rotation, right? And then you could either go clockwise or counterclockwise. I don't care. I will have both of them. Okay. And then you just measure from here to here and then move it to your new line and then mark it and then start over. Okay, so refer back to what we just did. Okay, so that's for 3 and 4. This next page is blown up of 5 and 6. This is reflection. Okay, so 5 and 6, you can choose to label it if you want to. Usually the reflections are a little bit easier to see where your markings are at to connect them to make the shape. But otherwise, really the only ones that I need shaded is your rotation ones. Okay, so for example, number 3, I have both of them. Okay, so you shade depending on if you went clockwise or if you went counterclockwise, then you'll just shade your final shape. Okay, I'm not going to check labeling, but it helps you to connect. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right, so 5 and 6, you're doing reflection with your compass and protractor. Okay, then the next page. There is like 3/4 of the page. It's just repeating things that we've talked about in class, so you can either look at it or choose to ignore it. The only part you're doing on this page is the try it. Okay, so I put an asterisk next to it. Now, they didn't want to make it so easy because we've been doing like A and A prime, B and B prime. Well, that would make it obvious to name your reflections. So what they did is they changed the letters. So you just need to understand when you reflect something, it's been flipped. Okay, so what are the letters that match up with it once it's been flipped over? Now, this one obviously will be easy because you're just doing a single letter. But these two, it has to be in the order to match up with the points. Okay, so for example, on B, when it says, what is the reflection of image triangle STU? When you write the answer, you're going to have triangle, and then whatever matches up with S needs to be your first letter. You can't randomly choose the order of those letters. They have to match up. So whatever matches up with S is your first letter. Whatever matches up with T is your second letter. Does that make sense? Okay, and then the same thing on VW. You can't just randomly transpose that segment. Whatever matches up with V has to be the first letter. So if you flip it, it'll be wrong. We good? Okay, next page. There's only one problem on that page. So again, ignore this up here because they talk about rotating it about a different image than the original, and you're not even doing that on the try it. So just ignore that because I think that'll confuse you. So you're just doing the try it. Okay, the directions tell you to go 90 degrees counterclockwise. I don't care if you go counterclockwise or clockwise. It's just like the other one. I'll have both of them. Okay, so whatever one you choose, make sure all of them are going the same. So you are rotating this V shape 90 degrees. Okay, so when you do it, make sure it's an obvious shade. I had people come up and borrow, if you have your own highlighter, then use your own highlighter. So say like V is up here, you're going to have so many lines coming out from there to find your 90. It's kind of hard to know which one's which. So once you connect to make your V, if you went this direction, then just either make it darker with your pencil so it's obvious and labeled, okay? Or have a highlighter, just go over it with pencil, okay? Or with the highlighter. Okay, and then the last page. Only one problem on that one as well. So this is an example. It's already been done for you. Okay, you're just doing the try it where I put the asterisk. So you're going to answer these questions. Okay, and then you're going to rotate this image with your compass and protractor, and they tell you to go 120 degrees. And again, I don't care if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. I'll have them both. Okay, so this one will be easier just for you to shade it because it's a solid shape where the previous one wasn't a solid shape. Okay, but I do want you to notice in the directions, you're not going to call it A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, they want you to call it W, X, and Y. And the word respectively just means in the same order. So whatever A was in your image that you're drawing, W will be that point. Okay, and then B will be what? X, good. And then C will be Y. Okay, so it says right here in the directions. We good? Okay. You're free to move about the cabin.
Did I do